And welcome to On the Chain. You are here on the Huddle Review. This is Jeff. We are not going to be discussing XRP. Today, we are going to be talking about everything digital economy related. We're going to be talking about cryptocurrency. We're going to talk about XRP. We're going to talk about Bitcoin. We're going to talk about ETH. We are going to talk about the digital yuan looking to upset the digital dollar as a reserve currency. And it's all getting ready to start right about now. And we're back. Just kidding. So, just want to give a little bit of a shout out today to XRP, to BTC, to all the other digital assets that are in this space, because we are not exclusive to any one digital asset here on the HODL Review. I like this space in general, and I think we need to discuss the development of this cryptocurrency digital asset space. And we want to look at what it means overall, as we start seeing the economies changing, as we start moving from fiat into a digital economy world, what is the ramification to us from a financial perspective and from a privacy perspective and from a security perspective? Before we get into that, we got people bouncing in the room. I want to give a few people here a quick shout out because number one in the room today was DNI, the digital nomad investor. So let me throw him up there. I don't know why that is a big circle like that. I don't think I like this. I don't like that view, but I have no idea why that looks like that. What is going on with that? Let's go back to the minimal theme. Let's see if that fixed. Let us see if that fixed it. There we go. That's a little bit more palatable. So got some people in here. We got Edward, we got Chip over here. RJ Roberts Design. Hola. It's good to see you here. It's always great when new people are bouncing into the room that I haven't seen before, that are following on the chain, that are following the HODL Review. We do this live stream every Saturday morning at 8 a.m. Started at 8:15 today. I had a few little mishaps while I was preparing. Number one mishap is I almost forgot the coffee. And then as I was pouring it, some of it kind of leaked all over the floor. Now, this coffee is Death Wish. So if you want to try the strongest coffee you've ever had, this isn't an ad. Just want to throw that out there. But if you like espresso and you like strong dark roast, get the Death Wish. They have it at regular stores and you can get it on Amazon. How's that for a shout out? Chip, we made nothing on that. So, but anyhow, enjoy. So I think that that's the most important part of how we get started for the day is really looking at, what kind of coffee you can drink in the morning if you'd like to create that, espresso roast. Anyhow, I grind the coffee and then we got the stovetop espresso maker. I think it really brings out all the flavors the best. So when you sit down and you decide, hey, you know what? I'm going to spend the next hour with Jeff here on an early Saturday morning discussing digital asset on the HODL Review exclusively on the chain, then you probably want to come with a nice espresso or some coffee so we can make it through this hour and talk about everything we need to talk about. So if you looked at the thumbnail, what did I highlight on the thumbnail? Digital yuan, that China wants all the money. Now, one of the things that we're starting to see in the digital economy space is that there's a battle right now going on that's being waged, digital asset aside, but there's a battle being waged, first to market with the digital currency. Now, the question is, does it matter first to market with the digital currency? And is China going to be first to market? And it looks from every aspect of anything, China is going to be number one in the market with the digital yuan before anyone else. Now, the question is whether or not that's important, and then trying to really understand the significance of what that really is going to mean for all of us. So, if you guys, first, if you're brand new, you're watching this back on replay, or you're here with us live, and you haven't subbed to the channel yet, make sure you hit the subscribe button down below. Also, make sure you check out the description, because in the description, the one thing that you're going to see in the description is that we have some links, and we have some links right over to our website. So let me pop this up here real quick because I want to show you guys the On the Chain website, and why is onthechain.io the place you want to go. Mainly because as you come here, right now what you're seeing are our YouTube channels. So we have two of them, two YouTube channels. We have the live channel, which is what we're on right now, and you guys are watching. You can go back and you can see some of the great live streams that we've done recently. You can go back and watch last Sunday night's roundtable with Malpass. You can go back 2 weeks ago. You can see the stream we did with Alex. And there's just so much going on here. And then if you scroll down just up, you don't want to get caught up in there. If you scroll down just a little bit here, you get to the other On the Chain. And here you've got some short form videos. This is a great video if you want to go check it out. Ripple XRP price control. And then, if you want to go see some interesting after show conversations. Now, these are shows that we did before when these guys were on live stream with us. And so now we're actually rolling out the after shows. We did have them posted before. They didn't get they were up on Coil, but now they're going to be on this channel. So here you have a great show that we did with DNI and Oz Crypto, another one we did with Rob Cash. So make sure you guys go check those out. This is jumping around a little much here. So anyhow, wanted to just bring that up real quick for those of you that have not been onto the updated website. Thank you very much. Chip is single-handedly tackling the updates to the website, and we have a lot more plans coming with the website, which I think you guys are really going to enjoy. So here we go. We got Edward already. He's ready. He's got his coffee and he's got his bullish mug, because that's where we're at. Here we go. Again, here's somebody relatively new. I haven't seen Gold XRP Steve pop in here before, but I may have to stop you there. China just can't run off and do their own thing until the Bank of England gives them an okay. So there's obviously going to be a little bit more to what's going on. However, let's see what we got here. Rob Licker, what's going on? Good to see you popping in here. Crawfish XRP. See who else we got here. We got Annalise. Annalise, you like the shirt? So, all right. Where do we leave off? Were we talking about coffee, or, I don't remember what we were talking about here. No. So China. Let me get out of that screen here. So it's interesting because you have a lot of governments around the world right now that are, and it's not something new. It's not like the here and now. All of a sudden, people woke up one day and they said, governments decided, hey, you know what, we're going to start creating some central bank digital currency. We want to try to take on the U.S. dollar from the China perspective. They didn't say one morning, hey, you know what, we think we want to do this. This has been in the works for a long time. And it's interesting because there was an article that came out this past week, and this came from where was this? This was on Cointelegraph. I thought it was interesting because the headline is quoting Brad Garlinghouse, who said that the world governments are eyeing blockchain as the dollar's power wanes. So the question is, what is really meant by that? What's going on? What is the existential threat to the diminishing power of the U.S. dollar currency, and does that have a direct impact on the safety and security from a global perspective? The one thing that we've identified over the years is that in order for there to be some form of a transactional agreement between all the countries, is that you need economic stability, or an economic stability within trade. For better or for worse, the U.S. dollar and has been the strongest dominating currency from a stability perspective, as well as for and from a distribution perspective. Not to undermine the valuation of currencies like the British pound, or at one point the euro had at least some power, except as we know in the EU, the European Union, and the euro destabilized, or put a magnifying glass on the weaker economies, and actually created more turmoil in economies like over in Italy or Greece. Greece was probably one of the primary examples of a country that suffered significantly when they rolled out the euro. So now, here we go. We've got all these other things at play. So now, what can we learn from the past? What do we have to look forward into the future? What is China's role in it? What is the U.S. role in it? Does the digital yuan actually have any form of representation to what we've all grown to know as digital asset or cryptocurrency? So I think that's one place that we all really need to focus in and start, because in many of these instances, as we see the rollout of these currencies, these are not what we've become accustomed to as being cryptocurrencies or digital assets. These are a centralized version of a fiat currency in digital format. So that's where I think there's a little bit of a misnomer, and to really gain a better understanding of the direction we're moving in, because, and again, I think it's important as we start identifying, and why do people look at Brad Garlinghouse and what Ripple has to say? Mainly because they've had a major impact, and they're taking on one of the biggest entities in global trade, which is SWIFT, which is the movement of money cross border. So obviously that garners a lot of respect, and people want to turn to them and say, okay, you're working with these big banks, you've taken on the Goliath. Now, what does that mean, overall? And it is interesting, because one of his follow-up statements in this article was, a majority of governments are looking seriously at blockchain technology. Now, again, this is important, but then we also have to distinguish the differentiator. So if we have a country like China that is building a centralized currency, they're not building a decentralized digital asset, cryptocurrency based type product here. They are really more focused on, how are we going to control the economy. So, and it's interesting because we're starting to see, a faster and faster ramp up within China towards their digital currency. And I had a conversation yesterday. There is one company that I deal with that's a Chinese company. And many of the individuals that we work with from this Chinese company are outside of China. And I find it interesting because a lot of people, their perspective is really colored by what they see in the news. So if we watch the news, our perspective is going to be such that it's going to be based on the opinion of others in terms of how they want us to have our opinion, because that's how the news is going to project the information. So what's then important is that everybody does their own research. You have to dig down. We have to look for alternate mechanisms of getting news. As we know, mainstream media in the United States and globally is probably one of the last places you want to go to based on the fact that it's mostly opinionated. It's hard to trust. So you have to dissect all the information that you get to come up with an answer. Now, over in China, what I find is really interesting, and I think it's really, really important as we see the growth of the digital asset space. We have to understand the dynamics that are at play from a political power move and an economic power move coming out of China. China is a major player in the world. China is also a major destabilizer, a regional destabilizer in terms of some of their perspectives on let's say Taiwan, or what their objectives are regionally throughout Asia. China, is it's an interesting, it's definitely an interesting research subject, but it's all happening here and now as they get closer and closer to rolling out their digital currency. Now, this came out in South China Morning Post, and this was what's today's date? Today is the 8th. So this was on Thursday. So on Thursday, this article came out talking about the Chinese economy in the South China Morning Post. Go figure. But there's 4 state-owned banks. Now, underline and underscore state-owned, because this is really important. And as we circle back to all these conversations, whether it's on this video or on future videos, always remember that the controlled mechanism, is state-owned. So it's not like you have the Federal Reserve in the United States, which is it's a private third-party organization. It is not a government organization, and so we have to understand that. We also have to understand that the central banks throughout the world do have government involvement. However, when we look at the United States, we don't have state-owned or federally owned banks that you're banking at on a regular basis, and so I think that's it's an important dynamic for us to understand. So here we have the Bank of China, China Construction Bank, Industrial and Commercial Bank of China, and the Agricultural Bank of China that are working with the People's Bank of China. So here you have multiple banks, and what are they doing? They're getting closer and closer to their large-scale test for their digital currency, which is a centralized digital currency. And so, although on its face we say, okay, well, the U.S. wants to have their central bank digital currency. Every country in the world now, we see more and more talk about it, and there's a divergence away from the blockchain tech that we think it might mean, or from the cryptocurrency backed digital currency. So we talk about the central bank digital currency. It is not a cryptocurrency, is not a decentralized currency. It is centralized. Now, in China, why this is significant is because it's an additional layer of control. So can we say, hey, is a nation like China or the U.S. going to say, hey, this is great, let's roll out with a decentralized currency that the country no longer has control over? I think it would be a very, very difficult conversation for many of these countries to have. However, we're starting to see in countries like Jamaica or the Marshall Islands, or other places around the world, where they are going after the development of a blockchain-based digital asset. China is not. So let's keep underscoring that. Now, here's the story. So, so I have this conversation with this individual, doesn't live in China any longer. Some of the people, a lot of the people that I work with from this company specifically are originally from China or recently from China. And incidentally, they don't live in China. I've worked with people that do. Different companies makes it extremely difficult to work with them. However, so in this scenario, the conversation we had kind of moved over into this dynamic, right, of what China's doing from a corporate level, what China's doing from a political level. The one thing that we always need to understand is that the Communist Party in China always gets a seat at the table of any of these corporations when they get to a certain size. And they get to dictate and make decisions about the ebb and flow of products. There's also a law in the books that allows the government always to have a backdoor into software, into a communication backdoor into those into these apps or what have you. It could be hardware, it could be software. And so this is one of the things that needs to be highlighted, because you look at it on the from a news perspective and people will say, oh, that's you believe that because your politics are slanted one way or the other. Typically people are going to say that are getting their information directly from news sources that are telling them that it's not true, when in fact it is true. So especially when you get it right from the first party, the first person party. It's not third party or fourth party generational news that's being passed down and twisted and amended like it is on news. All this is significant and important because when we look at China, and China is a major, again, they're a major player in the world from an economic perspective, and they're growing with some form of political clout in the world as well. However, they've taken some major hits recently, and this has really been growing because the Chinese economy, although it looks extremely powerful and strong, does have a lot of inherent weaknesses that are built into it. They've identified it, and so now when we're moving to this next stage, we're going to see a 100% centralized Communist Party controlled currency that is now able to manipulate how people's buying habits can or cannot be. So that's what we're starting to see, in this new China era, of the fact that they also have social media scoring that will rate and determine whether or not you could potentially go to work the next day, whether or not you can get on the bus, whether or not you can get on the subway, based on social scoring. Maybe they shut you down and now you're shut down from all your money. You're shut down for everything. Now, they can do that with your banking as it exists today. They put out some notification and you're out of the bank. Now, so the question that I asked yesterday, I said, look, I have had a couple conversations with people while they're in China. This individual is outside of China. And I said, well, from a security perspective, I always find it interesting because there's a conflict, between the capitalist growth, economic growth within China and the communist rule. And they're always at conflict with one another. So as the capitalist form of the capitalist economy grows, the Communist Party needs to push back to maintain their sovereignty or to maintain their control, and not allow, and not allow for, too much freedom. Now, one of the things that happens when you get economic freedom, and hopefully you guys are interested in this conversation. If you're not, tell me to shut up and let's change topics. But when you get more economic freedom, meaning that now you have a lot of disposable income, which is what we've seen growing in China, because the wealthy class in China is growing exponentially over the years. So you have a lot of money to spend, a lot of disposable income to spend. So they go and spend it in China, and they spend it outside of China, and they travel. So a lot of people within China now, seeing what goes on in the rest of the world, they come back home. They're like, well, we want a little bit of freedom too. So with that economic freedom comes, I want political freedom. But the political party, the communist controlled political party, doesn't want to offer the political freedom. So they need to pull back in. Now, President Xi over in China isn't the most popular person in China. A lot of the Chinese, a lot of the Chinese, whether they're in China or outside of China, are not big fans of Xi, and they would like to see some changes within at the government level. Now, one of the things before, in his predecessor's era, they were moving slowly in the direction of this economic freedom and a breakdown of the Communist Party control. So as you saw, the retreat, let's call it a retreat of communist control and a growth of the capitalist economy. But now under Z, he took a different approach where now he wants to go back to the original tension, which is how do we rein in the economic freedoms? How do we pull that back? So the government of China already has seats on the board of major corporations. We know that like a company like DJI is an example, which is a drone maker that's in China. Now we have to understand that in China there's differences of technology. There's the technology like your Apple products and others that are made over in China for American companies or foreign companies to take advantage of and abuse the cheaper labor that's available in China. And so these corporations go over there, they abuse the cheap labor, then they bring their products back over to the US and they can sell them at inflated costs and they have a much lower labor rate. And so you have that dynamic, which now we're starting to see manufacturers pulling out in droves out of China, which was already foreseen even before this whole dynamic with what's been going on over the past 5 months. We already started to see that economy, pulling back a little bit. There's already been tension in the environment. Now it's just more highlighted. There's a big microscope on what's been happening in China in relation to our reliance on China globally as a manufacturer producer, and it can't be that way. But then so you have that dynamic in China. Then you have another dynamic in China, which it's relatively limited. You can count the number of companies maybe on one hand in terms of that have major export clout, that have manufactured product that are at a very, very high level. They're high quality. They run the companies like American-run companies. Many times they hire American and European CEOs and leaders for the companies so they can build them and develop them on a global scale. The dynamic is important. And so you have a company like DJI, or I can never pronounce it correctly, the phone manufacturer. They make other things, Huawei or something like that. There's multiples like that, and they make high quality products. These are the ones that you have the government sitting at the board and taking advantage of the board seat to dictate what goes on with that manufacturer. So like DJI is an example, easy to build in, Huawei. There you go, David. So easy to build in a back door into the technology. So let's say you have a drone manufacturer. Is it a major issue if the government has a backdoor to drones that are being used by civilians on everyday use? Do I care if the Chinese government is monitoring my, and looking at what I'm recording if I'm flying over a lake or taking pictures somewhere? I mean, that's invasive. Obviously, we don't want that to happen. What's more critical, though, is when you have governments and police departments and others that are also utilizing those drones. And then you have a backdoor for the Chinese government to come in and spy on or collect data from the use of that drone, as an example. So that's where it becomes, problematic. So then, this dynamic, speaking to this individual, I said, okay, so, how do you have freedom? Because now I'm concerned. I told him, I said, look, I talk a lot about digital assets. I talk a lot about the, change in fiat currency, but China's on the forefront of moving their fiat currency over to a digital form of currency, which also means that there's going to be more control over the ebb and flow of currency within the population and the monitoring of how the population is actually using the currency. So I said, well, how does this actually work then? Let's say, because we talked about WeChat, we talked about TikTok, some apps that people are very familiar with, globally. And he told me he doesn't like either platform. He just downloaded it. It's just not his thing. But anyhow, he told me that on WeChat, even he had to, when he moved to where he lives now, he lives up in Canada. When he moved to Canada, he had to, and he took on Canadian citizenship. China does not allow for dual citizenship, so he had to denounce his Chinese citizenship in order to become a Canadian citizen. And he said, as a Canadian, Alipay, Tencent, yeah, there's a ton of them. Now, as a Canadian citizen, he's using WeChat. He said he posted a Taiwanese flag on WeChat. He put up, he didn't post it, he put it as his profile picture. So instead of, a picture of him or whatever, he decided as his profile pic on WeChat. I've never been on it. I'm assuming it works just like Twitter or Facebook or any of the others. So he put his, the Taiwanese flag as his profile pic, and he said within hours his account was shut down and he was banned from WeChat for 3 days. And this is as a Canadian citizen using the app over in Canada. What is up, Alex? Coining 203 XRP. Welcome. So, so why is that significant to all of us? Why have I been, talking about China for the past 30 minutes? And why is it significant to our conversation on digital asset, cryptocurrency, and the fact that, that China is getting ready to roll out the first digital yuan, the first digital currency, is because of all of that. Because of the fact that they do have an elevated level of control across the board when it comes to their own domestic manufactured products and the risk that it has to the public at large around the world. Now, that then becomes more significant when they roll out a digital currency, because if their objective with this digital currency is to offset the US dollar as a reserve currency, even if it's regional, that elevates China to not just an economic level to where they're able to dominate regional influence a little bit more in terms of economic flow, but it also gives them a backdoor of control of all of these countries. So that's the dynamic that we have to concern ourselves with and understanding where it's coming from. Now, let's say David D. WeChat is more like WhatsApp, but more features, including payments. There you go. That's a good payment. Good point there too. WeChat equals China, Asia. Line is in Thailand, in Southeast Asia. WhatsApp is everywhere else. But yeah, so WeChat does have the payment aspect of it. And it's interesting too, because as we see the dynamic and the growth of what's happening, over in China, there's definitely, there's definitely a change going on. So let's see here. First, China wants to control the region, then it will cast its eye towards the West, even more emboldened. I think, that's a good point, in terms of what their objective is with the control of the currency. So, and not even to dwell, we're not dwelling in political opinions. We're just discussing the factual developments on the ground of what is seen and what we need to understand and learn as China's rolling out their digital currency. So it's going to impact not just people within China, it's going to impact people in the region, and then it's eventually going to impact people globally if it gets to that point. Now, obviously, there's going to be an offset in terms of, what's the offset? The offset is going to be the digital dollar or the digital euro or whatever it might be. But one thing that we're identifying with all of this, as all these fiat currency replacements, these digital currencies pop up all over the world, the one common theme is that they're all in their own walled gardens. And so, are they all centralized, controlled? They're all going to be centralized. They're all going to be, controlled by the government. The question is, how controlled? What kind of privacy layers are going to be built into it? Because I think that's a really, really important aspect. And it brings up another point and the reason why I even went down this path to begin with, and, as I started reading, I had to go back to an article from about a year ago. And I think this article from about a year ago was really, really spot on. And so let me pull this one up. Here we go. So this article showed up on Fast Money. It was so spot on with what they were talking about. Digital money is here. This was March of 2019. So digital money is here. Will it make us more free or less? And I think this is, it's interesting because they already a year ago were talking about Venezuela and China as a means, using digital money as a means for economic control and surveillance. Can the original promise of cryptocurrency survive? The misnomer, obviously, with this is that these currencies aren't cryptocurrencies. Yo, Jungle, what is up? What is up? Good to see you here this morning. Early morning for you. So welcome, and glad that you're here with us. Grab a cup of espresso, and somehow we're going to make it through this. So, so here we have, in Venezuela, as we know, and this goes back a year ago. So is it relevant? It's still relevant. I mean, it's crazy because in a year's time, what do we see in Venezuela? And this isn't just some, random, magazine online article. It's coming from Fast Company, so, but here's it's interesting because here they're talking about, the inflation in Venezuela, 1,000,000% inflation. So you talk about what happens when you move in a direction of socialist government or communist government control. You can easily move to major inflation, especially when you crush the livelihoods of individuals. And it makes a major issue. So, and let me just highlight this, because this is probably one of the most important statements that you guys can take away from this whole conversation, to understand the dynamics of a country that used to be the richest country in South America. And I like this statement they put here, but though once one of the richest countries in South America, the economy is in ruins, livelihoods are shattered, and starvation and violence are rampant. So we need to understand what that means. Now, then they have blackouts. They have government subsidized humanitarian aid, which makes the people subservient to the government. And this is critical, because here you have two dynamics. You have China, which is now in the process of clamping down on their economy more, and two countries that we know use and abuse their citizenry, that are trying to move into a digital economy. Now, this article is a year old. Venezuela failed miserably when they rolled out the petro. They thought that from a year ago they could jump on the wave of discussion on cryptocurrency and all of that, and it didn't work. It definitely didn't work for them. They definitely crashed and burned. Venezuela, has suffered significantly, even over the past year from where it was before. And then China, obviously we just had a whole conversation about it. It's crazy, right? It's just crazy. So, a big part of the conversation here is, when you want to create, and this is what we all talk about, right? We want to create an environment where we're able to have, transparency of transaction, faster transaction time, more control over our digital current, over our currency, over our livelihoods. And then on the counterbalance to it, what is there to be sacrificed? What can be sacrificed? Sacrifice is your privacy. Sacrifice is being subjected to full government control. So there's always, there's a reaction to every action. We just have to understand what the reaction is to plan for our action. So when you plan your action in advance, you have to understand what that reaction is going to be. And here we go. So I want to give some, again, a few shout outs to people that bounced in here that I haven't seen on before. One of them was John Toko, who put up a comment. Big E XRP, haven't seen you on here before, but peace and blessing, crypto millionaires, cryptonaires. We've got Zigzag Crypto. I think I've seen you on before. Jungle just jumped in. I like this comment here from Edward here. Spot on. Great stream. Appreciate it. Thank you very much. And then we've got David D here. Corrupt Chavez, followed by Maduro in a communist ideology, has bankrupted Venezuela. Heavy Chinese investment, as well as some Goldman backing, propping up the regime, which is exactly the case. And you have Goldman investing heavily in their debt. It's crazy. It really is crazy, because again, you have a prosperous country. They have natural resources. They have everything. And you can see what the political mindset has done to their country. Now, again, what does that have to do with cryptocurrency and everything? Oh, man, that's awesome. Really appreciate it. Been on now and again. Appreciate that, John. It's great to see you here. So, so again, what does all this have to do with one another? And it goes back to, what are we giving up, for, our economic, freedom, the transparency, or will there not be transparency? Or when you're in a country like the United States or in Europe, can we have more of an influence on our government's decision to move in the direction of digital economy? So we saw it when they were trying to throw out the CARES bill over here in the US, when they wanted to put money into people's hands because of a relief from what we've been going through. They tried to package in a digital dollar into it. From a political perspective, whenever they have bills, they always try to shove things in because they have these bills that are like this long. They shove something in. People don't really understand or see it. But there's a lot of discussion about that digital dollar and the significance of it and all of that. The question always is, action and reaction. If you're not prepared for the reaction, then your action can be devastating. So having the action of rolling out the digital dollar when nobody really understands the dynamics of that digital dollar, what did that really mean? But yet they're throwing it in to another bill can be dangerous. That's also why having some regulatory clarity from a congressional level, from a government level, and understanding the dynamics of the influence of what the controls can be, having some transparency and understanding of how you work within the digital asset space becomes important, because then it also holds the government accountable to their digital currency. So when you write it in a form of digital currency and you say, here's how things need to act, then the US, when they roll out their digital dollar, they have to act within those same confines, and then we're not surprised by some reaction to their action. We have to that's really important. Now, another point that kind of came up from all of this, which I think is interesting. This was in the Harvard Business Review. This was this past week. Let me just pull this up real quick. I know now we've gone like 45 minutes and we talked like 30 minutes about China, but I think it's important. What is up, WB, with the Chinese bamboo? Huh. David D, let me see here. Oh, we got Mitchell just joined in here. Good to see you here. So we got another David D here. Let's see. Unstable currencies cause people to get their failing currencies to something more stable and global. BTC is highly sought after in Venezuela, Iran, Turkey, and most recently Lebanon. Man, I'm glad you brought that up. I meant to bring that up. Outstanding. Yeah, that is an outstanding point, because it's amazing, as we all, there's so much discussion about digital asset, currency, stability, a store of value, whatever the use case is. I don't care what your thoughts are in terms of power consumption or anything like that, or speed, or it doesn't matter. But David brings up a great point, because in Venezuela, where is their money going for stability? They're putting into Bitcoin. When you have 100% change, or 100%. If you have, a 10%, 20%, 30% fluctuation in currency, not so extreme when you look at, Venezuela with 1,000,000% inflation rates, where their currency has zero value, nothing, just done. I mean, they have nothing. So you can do your 10, 20, 30% ups and downs, not such a big swing. It's a good place to keep your money, and it becomes more transactional for them. Now, can there be other options? I'm sure there's definitely other options. Would they be better off using XLM over in Venezuela, and from a transactional perspective, or XRP from a transactional perspective, or Ethereum from a transactional perspective? Maybe. Definitely XRP or Ethereum would be a lot better for them to use on a day to day, but their focus, they understand Bitcoin, because Bitcoin has the biggest name. That's what they're going to go to. So, all right, another one here. This is from WB. To be fair, the USA has been actively making it harder for Venezuela. Venezuela had lots of help in failing. Yes and no. I mean, I think that, I don't know. I think where U.S. had a responsibility to Venezuela is when Chavez got in for another term, and it was obvious that there was fraud in the election process, and the U.S. did nothing at the UN level, where it was known, widely known, that there was fraud in his last election before he died. That was, that was where the U.S. had some responsibility to have stepped up to the plate and said, hey, there's complete fraud in the election process. But that gets political. So, uh, Crypto Popo, what is up? Not yet, not yet, almost. They don't realize they'll be eaten alive by BTC transaction fees. Yeah, I think there's so much. Man, look at this, 1 a.m. and he's here with us. That's dedication. That is for sure dedication. Glad to have you here. GeoXRP just bounced in. So let's see here. What were we going to look at here? I was going to pull something up. Which article was it? Let's see. Yeah, let me shut down the articles that we don't need. Fast money isn't needed. Okay, where did it go? I had it pulled up. Oh, it's way over here. Okay. So this one came on the Harvard Business Review. I think this one's also important. You guys, we got to look at this because all this stuff is related. That's why I decided on today's video, we have to take a look at kind of this bigger picture of everything that's going on. Here we go. So this one came up in the Harvard Business Review. Take it for what it's worth, coming out of Harvard. I know it probably has a political slant to it somewhere, but we're not going to go through and read the article. Anyways, we're just going to use some of the topical points that they brought up. Could digital currencies make being poor less costly? So, it's interesting. You can go through it. If you bring these blockchain-based payment systems to the people that are considered to be unbanked, it's interesting because, here you have, and it's interesting how they get into this. And right now, more than 70% of the world's central banks are exploring the merits of CBDCs, electronic versions of their fiat. Bigger deal than you think. A national digital currency could reduce reliance on commercial banks as a principal interference from money management and increase optionality for customers. So it's interesting that, here they're talking about digital currencies. They're not referring necessarily to cryptocurrencies, digital assets. They're talking about central bank digital currency, or central bank currencies, central bank digital currency. And so, this whole thing gets into the CBDCs. But the point is, can it make being poor less costly? Or, the way I like to really look at this is, in a country like China, a country like Venezuela, a country, in any country in Africa that's in development mode, or South America, or, even here, right here in the United States, it doesn't matter. I don't care if it's developing country or a developed country, you have need for self-reliance, and this is the direction that things are moving. So it doesn't make it less costly; it makes it less costly for everybody. Obviously, we know with XRP, with cross-border payments from a financial institution level and a banking level, it's less costly. It doesn't cost a lot to move large sums of money, and those large sums of money can be moved in a very short period of time. So that's crucial, that you can move money in 4 seconds, 5 seconds, 10 seconds, and it's moving all the way across the world. It's doing at a fraction of whatever. So the impact is amazing, right? That it can have on an institutional level that trickles down. Now, from a self-reliance perspective, we're seeing, what is up, CAK? Good to have you on. So Curtis, going to bed. Go to bed, New Zealand. You're drunk. So it's really important. So if you look at it from a personal level, foreign workers in other countries need to send money back to their home countries. And we've had a number of conversations about this before, what it means to move money back to your home country and the costs. So like a Western Union that's charging, I don't know, what, 20%? So for every $100 that you move, it costs you $20. So you see it right here in the US. It's not just people sending money across border. You have all these check cashing stores that charge exorbitant fees, like 17%, 20%. So someone works, they take their paycheck, they go to this check cashing store, and for every $100 they made, they pay off, $17 to $20 to get their money right away, their cash. It could be lower, could be 9, 10% in some cases. But let's say you lost $10 out of your 100 for nothing. But the reason why people are doing that is because they're not banking. So in many scenarios, they think banking is expensive, where you have costs. And a lot of banks do assign different costs, but they're not that extreme. So a lot of banks, if you have a personal checking account in the US, it might charge you like $5 a month. But a lot of people are living paycheck to paycheck to paycheck. In their mind, they live on fiat currency. They haven't moved into banking. When you're not in banking, it influences and impacts every other aspect of your life. So if you don't have your banking record, how do you get funding for a vehicle? How do you get mortgage for a house? How do you get funding for business investment? So as you go around the world, one of the detriments in a poverty scenario, obviously, is their lack of access to banking, because in many countries around the world, getting access to banks is more costly and more difficult. The one thing that everybody in this country takes for granted is the fact that there's a lot of things that are very easily accessible and obtainable in the United States. The same reason why a lot of people from all over the world come to the US, because it's easier to do things here than it is in other countries. Especially, when you get into countries that now want, they're ramping up or ratcheting up a little bit of the control. So that's the balance. Again, we have a country like China, Venezuela, that are looking not just to control their own people, but also they want to circumvent the regularities of what happens around the world. We have certain standards of practice, let's call it, around the world. People have a certain, expectation, a certain level of security expectation when things are done. From a global perspective, we look at it from a nation state perspective. It's a small pool because there's not that many countries as a relation to states or cities or population. Countries are relatively small, but you have the heads of state. Everybody gathers at the YUAN to have their conversations, and you can see a lot of, the kind of the more tribal kind of mentality, within the UN, where, and it's really, crazy when you see that kind of a slant, politically speaking, in the UN, but then it's also economically speaking in the UN. So you have a lot of bad actors, rogue actors in the world that do things a certain way. And then the world body decides that they want to punish them. So the form of punishment is through economic embargo. right or wrong. That's just how it works. So then you have some of these rogue nations, let's say like a China. China wants to move money and weapons to whoever, the US, they want to move. Russia. There's always power plays going on. The question is, who are the actors that they're propping up? So a lot of the bad actors, let's call them our perspective, kind of stick together. So you have like North Korea, communist country, China, communist country, Iran. It's interest. That's an interesting dynamic over in Iran, but let's call it right now Islamist control at the highest level. Big backer of terrorism globally. Syria, bordering on dictatorship at this point. Wasn't always that way. So you have a lot of Venezuela, now communist country, socialist communist, bad actors, the way they're treating their populations, lack of freedoms, the support for whatever, you can look at it, but they want to work together and work within and around the expected system, a standard operating system that's expected from a national level. So they want to shut them down economically. Now, if you get like a China that gets involved with their digital currency, their expectation is to be able to circumvent everything. And that's why Venezuela had the petrodollar. They tried to circumvent. They tried to force other countries to utilize their petro a couple years ago by giving them discounts in oil in order to try to circumvent and do different things. So let me just see here. We got Schrodinger's cat. Great to see you up so late. Regards from hot, sunny London. Hey, it's awesome. So appreciate what you and Chip and the team do. Cheers, Paul. Really appreciate it. Good to see you on. And then we got XRP Hoarder here. Digital currency will make us less free, in his opinion. And soon governments will use smart contracts to collect taxes instantly and automatically. Man, so that goes exactly to the root, to the heart of the whole point. So this is where you need a little regulatory clarity. You need some oversight. You need some control from the population up through the government. You can't have government representatives just dictating full control through a digital economy. China, coming down through the communist agenda, will take away most rights and dictate and control through a digital economy. We'll see it happen. This goes back to what the story and the conversation I was talking about, is that is exactly what their expectation is for the Chinese, whether they're in China or outside of China. Their expectation is that when China rolls out their digital currency, it does mean more control over the population. That's their perspective. That's how we look at it. We see it. That's our perspective. Now, it's important because smart contracts and purchasing, and it's not so far-fetched, because this didn't just come out of China, because we saw Canada, and I think this is important because Canada also hinted at the fact that they're looking at blockchain technology as a means of immediate collection of taxation, or at least the monitoring of people's purchasing habits, and to then be able to collect taxes. So yes, I think you're spot on with that. Exactly, spot on. All right, so we got here. Yeah, you can't stop the misuse by some governments. That's true. The XRP community, we know the alternate. So this is interesting, right? I mean, this is really, really interesting, right? So when we look at the dynamics here, and this goes back to whether it's going to be in the U.S. government or whether or not it's going to be, community controlled, however we want to look at it. There all are alternative. We see in Venezuela right now, they're using Bitcoin. So there's alternatives. They're circumventing the nation state. They're circumventing a nation state that has driven their economy to 1,000,000% inflation. So that's critical because the people need to take care of themselves. Eventually, they have to throw out their government that's destroyed that country, and brought them into communism. So that's it's an interesting dynamic that we have with the digital, and to me, and I believe all of us, the balance to the national states digital currency is going to be digital assets, going to be cryptocurrency, whichever one you trade in. So is it going to be Bitcoin? Is it going to be XRP? Is it XLM? Is it VeChain? Is it whatever? There's a whole bunch of these. Everyone has their focus. We know XRP is probably the best transactional currency. I made a video the other day that I put a different perspective on it, but it's interesting, right? So there's just so much to get into, so much to talk about. Um, you know, just a few last points, because when we look at countries that are kind of in a spot. Well, here's something else. This one came up. This was on Decrypt, but it says all systems go for launch of China's DCP digital currency. And so they're getting ready to blow up here with that. Now, this was interesting because one thing that we talk about a lot is, blockchain technology has so many use cases for many different purposes in real world, everyday problems. One of them being voting. Now, here, so Russia has been using blockchain voting. And so what happens is that, and this was on Cointelegraph, that much of Russia's blockchain voter data is now appearing on the dark web. Somebody hacked the system, however they got it, but passport data for 1.1 million Russians is being sold on the dark web. So it was stolen by those. There was a constitutional reform referendum in Russia that used blockchain technology. Question is, who ran the blockchain technology? Who developed it? Is this country run? If it was country run, did they leave a back door for the country, for the government to manipulate outcome? Is there a action reaction? Is there something that's preventing and creating the security around the blockchain? Are they protecting the data with the give and take, the buy and sell of the cryptocurrency that helps secure the data? Are they breaking up the data into smaller packets and distributing them on computers in a decentralized network? Or was this a centralized blockchain that was easy to access? Apparently, because they accessed it and they dumped all this information. So it's amazing. It's amazing. So here's what happened though. It says, according to an investigation published by Russian language media outlet, an archive title, whatever, degvoter.zip, was publicly available for download for several hours via a government website on July 1. It's unbelievable. So they confirmed the authenticity and did all that stuff, but it's crazy. It's crazy. So there's BZ Comedy. Wondering where you were. All the way from California. California. Is that still in the US? I don't remember. Not sure if California is still in the US or not. Huh. Oh, on point. On point. So, yeah, I mean that's crazy, right? I mean that's anyhow. So one other last point to all of this, just a summation. What we had talked about, kind of moving in this direction. We spent a lot of time talking about China. I think it's interesting. It's important. We touched on it. It's a really, really good example, something we have to monitor and watch. We have to see the direction everything is moving in. And so one other point that came up, I found this article. This was on UX Sequence. Let me just share this real quick, and then we can move on with our lives. I'm not sure which. Let me stop sharing. Let me share this new one. Let's see here. Here we go. I know there's been some talk about Chainlink. I haven't honestly haven't done enough investigation into Chainlink. I was looking them up just to see where their main office is. They're not in China. I don't know if this is the main office isn't in China. So, a lot of these companies, like even Zoom is now leaving China because they don't want that control mechanism. They want to they want to expand their product offering around the world, and they don't want to be penalized. But here you have is there a relationship between Chainlink and Swift? And Swift is the one entity or organization that we talk about that China and Iran and Venezuela and North Korea and Russia to an extent, want to circumvent it, so they can do trade with each other. Now, there's other mechanisms they can trade, but there's also little countries that they want to support and move money and whatever. They want to do business with them. Swift is the mechanism to move money cross border. Everybody uses Swift, all the banks anyways. So if you're trying to do bank to bank transactions, everybody uses Swift. It's the common software to do it with, or the common protocol to do it with. So now it's interesting because we know what's going on with Ripple. We know what Ripple's goal was to offset Swift as another solution to do it more transparently, less costly, etc. But now Swift falling way behind because they never really had a solid technology. Even their Swift GPI wasn't that great. So the question here is Swift engaging with Chainlink? And then they kind of get into it. So, it's interesting. I think this would be a good topic for a video we'll do after. And we can get into this, a lot more and discuss, but I thought it was just something interesting to kind of leave off with, just some food for thought to see where that always goes. Let's see. David D. Sherika, your son's tennis lesson is approaching. You know what? I've got some flexibility. I could be here for the next couple hours if you guys want. We're doing tennis during the week now, which is every day. So we're taking Saturdays off, and he's on every single morning at 8:30. So it's Monday through Friday, and no school, tennis. So yeah, that's funny. You guys know our tennis schedule, obviously, because I'm always running out of here on Saturdays. Crypto. Here's another good one right here. Let's see. I didn't see the end part, David. That's funny. Approaching faster than an SEC regulator on an illegal ICO. That's hilarious. So WB, cryptocurrencies could really help the people of Lebanon. We saw a lot of issues in Lebanon too, which was a real direct impact on the banking system in Lebanon, especially as they moved off of the reliance on the dollar as well. So, there's so much we can discuss. It's crazy. The benefit, the benefit is amazing of where crypto can go. David D, wow, you don't have DNI stamina. To a couple more hours or days. I do not. No, this is I'm at the end of my stamina. That's could you imagine? All right, I don't even know if DNI is still in the stream. He was the first one in. He probably went off. But yeah, DNI, hey, you want to replace me? Bounce in real quick. We can take this thing through the afternoon, and then we can get someone else to pick up in the evening. Maybe we should do we can try to organize and orchestrate the longest stream ever and see if we can keep a stream going without losing momentum. I'm not sure if you have to have one person in order to do that, or if you have multiple people and we just keep bringing people into the stream. We run it, for like a week and just have one person after another, or however long you can run these streams. I have no idea. So That's hilarious. But anyhow, you know what? I really appreciate all you guys bouncing in this morning. This was, I thought, a really, really important conversation to go through. You know, I wanted to kind of dig into China and what's going on, especially again, now that they're rolling out their digital currency. You know, how does that relate to the crypto market? What's going on? You know, how's that going to impact all of us? And all of that. So I'm going to allow everybody to do what they got to do. Um, but again, no, XRP New Zealand. We'll let you go to sleep. We'll wrap up this stream tomorrow night. We have our roundtable 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. We'll be doing the roundtable. We have Mark Phillips as a guest with us tomorrow night. I think that's going to be a phenomenal conversation. So definitely make sure you guys check in on that. I think that'll be a really, really in-depth, good conversation. And we might even discuss XRP on the roundtable tomorrow night. So go check out the description below. Check out the other channel. We got some good videos over there. And until next time, I will be back here on the Auto Review next Saturday, I guess. It'll be next Saturday. So until then, I'm out.
Are you down with OTC? Please like, subscribe, and click the bell to be notified when the next video drops.
Oh, whoa. Oh, I forgot to hit the end broadcast. No, I just wanted to comment. DNI is here. Great show. Thank you very much. Appreciate that, everybody. And yeah, that was only an hour, DNI. So no stamina. Hey, WB, I'll check that out. All right, guys, I'm out. Check you guys out. Have an amazing day. Have a great weekend. See you tomorrow night.